drug you. What? What if your government tries to throw you in a can? What? You're gonna want a shotgun. Oh. What? An automatic rifle. And a lot of ammo. Good.
We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They'll burn you out like a Waco. They'll stick your ass in a camp. Check for the cops in riot gear. Gonna kick your ass and laugh. The revolution is on its way. Better lock and load your AK. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun, buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. We're all set to riot. Buy a gun before you lose your Second Amendment. Buy a gun. They gave your money to the banksters. They stole your pension funds. It's time that we took to the streets. It's time we had our turn. A revolution is on its way, and the founding fathers would say, buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. Buy a gun, 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 buy a gun before you wish you bought a gun. You gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta riot in the streets. Revolution's not clean and neat. You gotta drag them through the streets.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. This is PrimerTime. My name is Michael.
Hey, and I'm Dan. How you doing, Michael?
Dan, I'm doing well tonight. We got Cracker with us tonight as well.
Hey,
guys,
Cracker.
how you doing?
Glad you're here, man.
Doing fine. How you doing, Cracker?
Another day in paradise, man.
Another day of paradise, huh? So you got pretty weather down there in Florida, correct?
Well, actually, today it rained almost all day long. But tomorrow's supposed to clear up and be pretty nice.
Okay, well, we finally had some pretty weather around here. Got to get out and target shoot a little shot of Ruger 1022. It was a lot of fun, Michael.
That's one of my favorite rifles, Dan, the Ruger 1022. I personally think it's, in its function, it's one of the best made rifles. It's simple to take apart and clean. There's a million replacement parts out there. Not that it actually needs a lot of replacement parts. The only thing I could ever think of a 1022 actually needing is more ammunition, more magazines, and maybe a replacement on a buffer.
Yeah, you know, and that's the most accessorized rifle ever produced also, and probably they produce more of those 22 rifles than any other. I love them. I really do. I think everybody should have one as a first rifle for kids or whatnot. And, speaking of that, how's the 22 ammo situation in your neck of the woods there?
There was some for sale. There was actually none for sale at, the big box store. The local guy had quite a bit, but it all seemed to be Aguila or Federal, and he had raised his price quite a bit. That kind of brings me to this thing I found just a couple days ago. It was written by the vice president of sales for Sierra Bullets, Mr. Matt Reams, and he goes on to address why we as consumers can't find any 22 long rifle ammunition. And he really breaks it down into 3 points. He says it's hoarders, gougers, and demand. And gives some interesting numbers. He says, I'll quote for it, demand. Now we're getting to the real meat of the issue. You hear manufacturers say they are running 24/7 on their rimfire lines, which is putting somewhere around 25 to 30 million rounds per day into the market. So how can there be a shortage? I've asked myself this until we start doing a little math. You hear all kinds of numbers about the gun owners in the United States, but you hear 70 to 80 quite often, 78 to 80 million. For the sake of not arguing a number, let's cut it to 35 million. Do you know a gun owner does not own at least one firearm chambered in 22 long rifle? Do you know any that are not looking for 22 long rifle, or at least would buy some if they saw it for normal prices? How many would buy when they found it? A lot. But then again, keep on the argument on the low end. Let's say everybody was satisfied with a single 500 round brick. 35 million multiplied by 500 is 17.5 billion rounds. So even at 25 million rounds being made per day, that's 2 years worth of production.
Okay, so they've had almost 2 years to produce this stuff.
I think the demand's still up.
So hoarding, you think that's where it's coming from? People hoarding the ammo, like me?
I think I agree. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a hoarder because I've been buying it for a long time, but I mean, I do see the demand is there, and that is a frequent topic of conversation between me and my friends. You know, we live kind of out in the sticks, so to speak, and so it's a trip for us, you know, to hit a Walmart or the area that has the gun shops, but that's definitely on every trip is.
So yeah, you buy in bulk on things and don't make as many trips to town. That's right. When you live away from things like that. How about in your area? How's the 22 ammo? Is it available?
There's some available. If you go to the gun shop, just like I said, big box stores have none. You go to the individual gun stores around and they've got it, but it's marked up high. And you know, I know when you go out to everybody's buying this stuff up. When you go out to the gun range, I don't see that many people that are out there shooting 22 long rifles. You know, once in a while somebody will come up here with a 22, but they're usually shooting either pistols. If it's a pistol, it's going to be a 9mm or 45 or something like that. 357, I see them out there quite a bit, and or high-powered rifles. I don't see 22s being shot up like that.
I'm finding that people are shooting 9mm.
Something don't make sense with a 22 long rifle to me. I mean, you can do the math all you want to, but what I did before, you had to kick the shit out of the way, and it was cheap as dirt. Then all of a sudden, poof, it was gone. I understand your math, Mike, but I don't know if I don't buy it, man. I think there's got to be that shit. There was too much of it for too long for our whole life. There was 22 ammo was freaking everywhere, and then all of a sudden it flies up and it don't come back.
In that same vein, back 4 or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago when we were buying, I mean, right. I never. When I buy now, I get 100 rounds, and I think I'm happy. But right. I think back and before, I never used to buy less than like 2,000. I mean, I definitely never bought less than 500 at a time because, well, it doesn't make any sense to not buy a brick.
Right.
And often I would buy an entire case, which is like 5250. Sometimes I buy 2 cases. I buy 10,000 rounds at a time just because I do like to shoot 22. And I mean, I remember shortages and other things, and I figured this was happening. But back when we were buying it like that, we were the only guys buying it. Now, when you go into Academy or into whatever your local big box retailer is, Walmart, for example, everybody in that store is walking by the 22 ammo now.
Yeah, I've never seen ammo.
Yeah, the Walmart near me has. It seems to consistently have 1 box of Winchester 45 ACP, 3 or 4 boxes of assorted brands of 40 caliber, maybe a box of 32, and a whole bunch of 270, and then shotgun shells. They've got no 22. They don't have any 9mm. They don't have any 38 or 357 or 44 Magnum. No 44 Special. 44 Special is like becoming quite rare. That's a gun shop only item anymore, it seems, or a well stocked retailer.
I was over at a friend's house last week, and he called a base exchange to ask him I told him about the 22s. He wasn't even aware of it. I told him about the 22s. He said, "There's not you can't buy 22s anywhere." He said, "22s?" I said, "Yeah, Rimfire 22." I said, "They're not available. Just a round." He said, "Bull crap," and he says, "Watch this." So he gets on the phone, he calls over the base exchange. And so the guy come back, and he finally got through to somebody that was where they sell the ammo. And the guy come on and said, "Yeah," he says, he asked me about the 22 long rifle. The guy almost started laughing at him. He said, 22 long rifle? He said, "No, we ain't got any of that." He said, "You don't have no 22 long rifle?" He said, "No." He said, "We've been out of that forever." He said, we get a little bit in. He said, it's instantly gone. And he said, we got some 9mm. And he told him a couple of different brands of 9mm we had. And he said, we got a few 45s. He said, we got lots of 223s. He had lots of 223s, but like we were saying, Michael, they were 50 cents around.
I'm seeing a lot of 223 and 5.56. It seems to be a lot of Lake City Surplus and American Eagle. It comes in a black box. And I'm pretty sure that's American made. It's either made in the United States or it's made in the Philippines. And that seems to be at normal prices. But there is quite a bit of that out there. But the 22 is gone. And to me, it seems that people are now starting to shoot maybe the 9mm a little bit more because 9mm is available.
Yeah, exactly. There's 9mm available here too.
Well, pretty soon the cost of 22 is going to catch up with the cost of 9mm. It sounds like, or it appears like.
I just think, how long can the hoarders hang out?
I don't know. Good question.
I mean, you have part-time in the shop, and your boss doesn't sit on inventory just for the sake of sitting on it. You know, if it's still on the shelf, he's not making any money.
That's right.
That's right.
Got to move things. You know, it's the name of the game is to move it. Speaking of, we went to a gun show. We had a gun show up here. It's normally a really good show, Michael, and it's a sad state of affairs at gun shows now when more than half the tables are what I call flea market accessories. And,
I understand that. Let me get some details about this show from you. Is it a set up on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday show, or is it a set up on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday kind of a deal?
No, you set it up on Friday evening and then work it Saturday and Sunday.
What time do you guys open?
9 to 5 and 9 to 4.
Okay. How many tables were at this show?
Probably 200 tables. 40 dealers. Not all of them were firearms dealers. Probably 20 firearms dealers were there, believe it or not. So there was 20 sets of tables that had firearms on them. We had 4 tables, and you can get quite, several firearms on there. Sold 11 high-dollar firearms this weekend, so made pretty
there's
good
the money in that.
Yeah, there's money in the high-dollar.
Of the people that had tables that were actually dealing firearms, how many were FFL holders and how many of them were private collectors?
Well, there was one private guy attached to us, and that was it. This guy just going through a divorce, and he was selling off his firearm collection. And so he set up a table with us, beside of us, and he sold his. He had some very nice guns. He had some, one of your favorites, Browning High Powers.
I do like those. 3
of those new in box. They're the older models, I'm thinking 91 or something like that.
Probably all of them in perfect condition.
Yeah, brand new in the box.
Oh, that's beautiful. Those are just gorgeous coming straight out of the box.
You don't see a lot of those at gun shows anymore. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's the state sales where they come from normally.
Were there the acres and acres of Tupperware out there? And what I mean by Tupperware, I don't actually mean by kitchen utensils. I mean by plastic guns. Was there? Seems to me when I see a show and there's a dealer who's got quite a few, he'll have a large assortment of Taurus plastic and Kel-Tec plastic and Ruger plastic.
I was pretty grossed out about the thing, Michael. I didn't pay that much attention. When I got to the stand that was selling screwdrivers, mixed assorted used screwdrivers, 3 for $1, your choice, and they had a big box of screwdrivers out there, which was past the tables that had the purses on them. I was pretty disgusted at that point. And I just asked my friends, I said, did you see anything when you looked at the firearms in the show here? And he says, the only thing I saw was a Colt Ace up there in the box for $1,700.
Ouch.
And, I said, well, that price is a little bit steep. I might go $1,500 on it. And, my buddy went and looked at it and he thought about buying it for $17 and he did not buy it. And the fellow at the show eventually sold that firearm and, my buddy went back and asked him about it. And he said he sold it for $1,500. He said, "Well, dang, if I'd have known that, I'd offer you $1,500 for it." So, but he was just assuming that that was his bottom price.
Yeah, I'm not seeing a whole lot of flexibility on price from a lot of the private sellers. The last show that I went to was completely overpriced, and just one for an example, it was a Smith & Wesson Model 19. For people who may not know, that's a 357 Magnum revolver. It's in blue. It's a blued steel revolver. Well, this had been taken and chromed, which means that, to me, would mean that, number one, it's quite old. Number two, that it had a significant amount of wear to warrant the chroming process. And he was asking $1,000 for that. And that's not in the ballpark. You know, I mean, from 20 yards away, it looked like a very nice gun, but you step up to it and you can tell that even in the chroming process, you could see where the pitting was, you know, underneath. And, I'm not seeing guys like that move on their prices. You know, he says, yeah, that's the best he can do on that. Well, buddy, if that's the best you can do on that, you should be out of the business, because that's not commensurate with the value of the item by any means.
It's fascinating. You never see any Colt pythons or anything like that anymore. If you see one, they want over $2,000 for it. Basically,
they want $1,500 for Colt Troopers. And to be honest with you, I'm not all that impressed with the Colt Trooper. I think Smith & Wesson made a better pistol than the Colt Trooper. That's
probably the lowest end revolver Colt ever made, I think, Michael.
Well, it was their basically, yeah, that was their budget revolver for the police departments.
Yeah. I don't even think the original ones had adjustable sights on the back or anything. I think it was all cast right, all one thing. Weren't they?
I can't. I don't recall.
I had one time and I got rid of it. I didn't like it.
I'm not impressed with them, just because. Well, they're fairly beat when I see them, and
brand new one I had, but I didn't like it at all.
I don't really like their Parkerized finish. I think their Parkerized finish leaves something a lot to be desired. Colt does have, I think, some of the best bluing in the world when they got that really deep royal blue. That's gorgeous, but that's not on a Trooper.
That's correct, Michael. But you're right on the bluing on a Colt. It is some of the best to be found.
I mean, to me, it's almost like a mirrored finish. It's just absolutely gorgeous. But you know, that's why those command the $1,500 or the $2,000. The Parkerized Trooper that's had untold thousands of rounds through it does not get $1,500.
That's true.
And I think we're seeing that everywhere. The price of the used pistols and the used rifles is far exceeding the price of the new rifles.
Could we get back to the ammo for just a second, Michael? You were telling me about some dynamic research tech.
That's right. Dynamic Research Technologies has a new ammunition, and I actually became aware of this when I was shopping the other day, and seems to be a hollow point. It's a copper jacketed aluminum cored bullet, and it's significantly lighter and has increased muzzle velocity. For example, a full metal jacketed 9mm that somebody would consider a plinking round is usually 115 grains. Well, this is a hollow point, and it would be 85 grains. So it's about the same size as a 380 hollow point. Now, their claims are that it's pushing it out at 1350, which is pretty fast, but that's still a small bullet. And with it being copper and aluminum, I know it's going to have massive deformity, but I wonder about the penetration on it. And Cracker, I think that kind of falls right in your lap.
It does. Cracker, tell us about that. Is 1350, is that fast for?
Well, 1350 is, like a regular 45, that's about 950 feet per second.
I know that a 357 comes in at 1450.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a big jump up.
Yeah, it's right under it'd be like somewhere between a plus P38 and a 357 Magnum. There's like a couple hundred, 200 or 300 feet per second difference in them.
But the bullet size is a lot lighter, correct, Michael? Or is
Yeah, it's smaller and lighter.
Right.
Yeah.
So I wonder about the terminal velocity of that.
Well, lighter the bullet, I mean, it's not going to have the knockdown to it at all. It's like a 38 is like a 147 or 157 grain bullet. And, you got to have something behind it. That's the 9mm. That shoots a decent weight bullet, and that shoots it at a pretty good rate of speed.
145 grain or 147 grain, something like that.
I don't want to get it on you. Yeah, you can get all different weight bullets. Mr. Bond a while ago had put some 22s in the chat there. So 22 rimfires, and one of the ones he put in there was it's a subsonic 60 grain 22 rimfire bullet. It's like a short. It's got a real long lead bullet in it. They're not real accurate because it's a pretty heavy bullet for that little rimfire cartridge. But I personally
too slow to get a spin on the bullet, or
well, it's just not a stable bullet. That's the thing about it. It's not a stable bullet, and it won't like if you put it in a semi-automatic, it's not got enough. It won't most of the time. It
won't work the action.
Right.
It does look like it would have a tendency to tumble. It looked like it was.
Don't it? It does to me too.
So I mean, like in tissue, that'd be fine, but that doesn't do a whole lot for the trajectory.
What about, would it be good for like a 22 Derringer, which is an inexpensive firearm that people can buy for self-defense?
I think it'd be perfect for that.
When you pull the trigger, two bullets fire at once when you pull the trigger, on those Derringers. That's pretty cool.
No.
My Derringer, you pull the trigger once and cock it and fire again.
Yeah, mine was.
Oh, really?
If you've got one that sounds like that's a defect in the old.
Well, it must be, Michael. I've got one sitting here that'll do that. It shoots two at once.
Yeah, mine rotates.
You need to dispose of that in a manner in accordance with your local authorities or something like that.
Oh, really? Well, I'll do that. I'll make a note to myself to do that.
Michael, aren't you a collector of firearms like that? Don't you accept them when people send them to you?
I'll take. I will give a good home to anything that's up on the map.
And you take all reloading equipment. Is that correct, Al?
I'll take everything anybody wants to send me, man. I'll take not just your equipment. I'll take your bullets and your primer and I'll take it all. Just send it on. Yeah,
that's another thing about guns. At gun shows still you can walk up and buy 50 pounds of black powder if you wanted to. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
I can't believe you can still get away with that. I told my friend when we were working the show, I said, pretty soon gun shows are going to be a thing of the past.
There's no question about it. They're working on that a lot.
Well, they're working on it in several different ways. We just have a recent update from our beloved friends at the Party Bureau, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. All they're missing out is we need the Bureau barbecue to show up and got a pretty good time there. But they have now ruled 5.45 by 39 ammunition, and with the classification of 7N6, which is Russian imported stuff, as it's armor piercing. This ruling came out today. You can go to atf.gov and it's there. And the Gun Control Act of 68 defines an armor piercing ammunition as a projectile or projectile core which may be used in a handgun, which is constructed entirely excluding the present traces of other subjects, or from a combination of tungsten, alloy, steel, brass, bronze, beryllium, copper, or depleted uranium. No depleted uranium in these, but they're They have some sort of steel or something in them, so they don't pass the magnet test. They're considered it. But the ruling is based on the fact that a pistol is made for this. Now, the pistol that is made by Fabryka Broni Radom, which is a Polish manufacturer, and it's the model Onyx 89S. And the problem with that is the model 89S Onyx is not for sale in the United States. It hasn't been made
Now that
for
is,
the United States market. And number two, it's actually not a pistol because it does have a stock attached to it. It's more closely defined as a short-barreled rifle.
not even available in the United States.
And
Just based on someone producing one somewhere in the world, the ATF jumps in and says, "Hey, no more 5.45 by 39."
That's right.
In the past, I've owned an AR-15 upper that was chambered in 5.45 by 39 simply because you could buy Russian corrosive ammo and shoot it through there for like 12 cents a round.
Well, it's no longer 12 cents a round because that stuff used to be a case for, I believe it was it's 1080 or 1040 in the case of those, and you could get that case for $65. Now it's $350. And
Gone up that much.
And I believe tomorrow it'll be $375.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? No more of that good cheap Russian surplus, huh? Of course, you had to wash your gun every time, but that's okay.
Well, I think that's not a problem. That gets you familiar with your weapon, and the more familiar you are with your weapon, the better off you're going to be with it.
That's true. That's a shame, and it's all because of what's going on over there in Crimea, I guess. Is that?
Yeah, amazing how that works, isn't it? Any excuse in the world.
Truly. Now, there's some problems with this law, or everybody knows that there's problems with this law, but you can ask, well, if that definition for armor-piercing ammunition comes out, well, why is there plenty of SS-189 out there, which is an armor-piercing ammunition?
Good
because
point, because they make AR pistols, correct?
Plenty of AR pistols out there. But there's an exception granted specifically for SS-189.
Interesting.
Which, the AR-15 pistols actually brings up another little interesting item. SIG manufactures a AR-15 pistol, and they have a brace for it that looks remarkably like a stock and would appear to give a short-barreled rifle. And the ATF has ruled that is not a stock, and it's actually comes from the Department of Justice, and it says if you're to use that SIG brace as a stock, it's not a violation of the law. And it says the Firearms and Tobacco Bureau classifies weapons based on their physical design characteristics. While usage and functionality of the weapon does influence the intended design, it is not the sole criterion for determining the classification of a weapon. Generally speaking, we do not classify weapons based upon how an individual uses a weapon.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing what you can do with words?
That's right.
So this thing actually has a shoulder stock on it, or it's something that can be used as one?
It looks an awful lot like a shoulder stock. How this is supposed to be used is it looks remarkably like a T6 stock for an AR-15. But you hold it like a pistol, and it actually goes over your arm. So it's just an extended brace for
Interesting.
it. But people are putting them up to their shoulders and using them like that.
Like for a whammo slingshot, the thing that goes over your arm for that?
Very similar to that. Very similar to that.
Slingshot. You were talking about a very interesting slingshot, Michael, earlier that I haven't heard about.
Yeah, I don't have the link to that anymore. It's actually, I don't even remember. I think it was called Rocket Shot, and I'll find out and I'll tell you for sure.
But anyway, you said that they're putting arrows on.
Yeah, it's a slingshot that incorporates a whisker biscuit on it, and that's a funny word, but what it...
It's a sling bow.
Yeah, it's a sling bow for fishing. It was really the neatest little thing.
Oh, you're familiar with them, Hal?
Oh, yeah. That's been around for a while. The sling bow's been around for a while.
Well, I'd seen them before, but like this is the first time I'd seen one with a whisker biscuit on it, like that it was designed for it.
Right. Before you had to make it yourself. Now there's companies that make them. And I seen a 170-pound pig killed one of those. But the trick to making that work right is to make your own arrows for it. It'll shoot a regular arrow, but if the lighter the arrow, the faster it's going to go, and the stronger the bands on the thing, the faster it's going to go. That's a pretty interesting little weapon to go play with too. It'll shoot like you could kill small game with it, and I don't know if you've shot a slingshot very much, but if you take a slingshot out and start shooting it within a week. You're hitting
pretty good with a slingshot.
You're hitting it, man. You can get real good with a slingshot.
Yeah, shooting 1/4-inch ball bearings. That's a great ammo, and it's consistent. Doesn't curve on you very very much, and you can get pretty good with the wrist rocket, and not much time.
That thing will knock the crap out of stuff too. If you take one of those, when I was a kid growing up, there was a guy that used to use just a plain piece of surgical tubing, one piece over his thumb. His name was Butch Hackney, and I'm telling you what, he could if he drew back on a rabbit with that thing, that rabbit's head was gone. He would just, you know what the full-size marble will do to a rabbit's head?
Yeah, I actually like using
splatters.
I'd rather use marbles with the slingshot than bearings. Well, just based on the price, I can get a huge bag of marbles.
And there's some mass behind that dude too.
That is a lot of fun.
That's cheap fun for sure.
Everybody's done it as a kid, I'm sure.
Yep. No doubt about it.
Now, Cracker, you were telling me a story about 100 guns and 100,000 rounds. I want to know more about that, please.
Yeah, well, that was a story that was on From the Trenches. It's a guy that says you may have heard on the news about a Southern California man who was put under 72-hour psychiatric observation when it was found that he owned 100 guns and allegedly had 100,000 rounds of ammunition in his home. The house also featured a secret escape tunnel. By Southern California standards, anyone owning 100,000 rounds is considered mentally unstable. In Michigan, he'd be called the last white guy still living in Detroit. In Arizona, he'd be called an avid gun collector. In Arkansas, he'd be called a novice gun collector. In Utah, he would be called a moderately well-prepared, but they probably reserved judgment until they made sure he had the corresponding quality to the guns that he had and the food that he had stored. In Kansas, he'd be a guy down the road you would want to have for your friend. In Montana, he'd be called a neighborhood go-to guy. In Alabama, he'd called a likely gubernatorial candidate. In Georgia, he would be called an eligible bachelor, and in North Carolina, Virginia, Mississippi, Tennessee, Kentucky, and South Carolina, he would be called a deer hunting buddy.
That's so true.
Oh, I love it.
That's great.
Well, I'll tell you what, that brings to mind Georgia. Georgia's one of our freedom-loving states. And the mayor of Forest Park, Georgia, Mr. David Lockhart, was invited to join, Mayors Against Illegal Guns, which... So they sent him a letter, and he never responded to them. So they sent him another letter saying, hey, we invited you and you haven't responded. Well, he didn't tell him no. He told him hell no. And he gave him really good reasons. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, I do not support your efforts. I oppose the efforts to require private sellers with minimal sales, non-dealers, to perform background checks. I am proud that gun shows are regularly conducted in Forest Park. If you really want to reduce illegal gun sales, perhaps your energy would be better focused in petitioning the BATFE to end its illegal gun walking. Because of Operation Fast and Furious, Officer Brian Terry was murdered with a weapon that was sold by our own government. Your organization claims that the goal is protecting the rights of Americans to own guns while fighting to keep criminals from possessing guns illegally. Yet none of your coalition principles further any such protections. One of the principles is to keep lethal military-style weapons off our streets. First, I am awestruck that you would focus on lethal guns. It seems that a gun's lethality is the entire point of its design. That you believe that a gun's military style makes it more lethal is asinine, and however you would define such style does not make guns so designed illegal. Your stated goals protecting legal gun ownership and eliminating criminals from legally possessing guns are belied by your specific objectives. What you propose would convert what is currently legal possession into criminal behavior. You may have fooled other manners, and you may have other fools who agree with your actual objectives, but you haven't fooled me. That your organization was founded by Michael Bloomberg, who criminalized the sale of sodas in certain sides, is telling. It is impossible to believe that such a man is really concerned with the protection afforded by our Constitution. So, big ups to Mr. David Lockhart, Mayor of Forest Park, Georgia.
Makes me want to move to Georgia. That's encouraging to hear stuff like that, you know. And it seems like we're seeing more in the news about defensive firearm use from the public. It seems like that to me, Michael. How about you? Have you experienced that? Or?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of news stories that are showing that, and I mean, recently we had the chief of police of Detroit telling people to arm themselves. Now, that the police are understaffed and can't do it. You're gonna have to take care of yourself. Chicago just had recently its concealed weapon bill passed.
And crime is down. Let me guess, crime's down now.
Crime is down. There have been 8 uses in Chicago with no charges filed against the concealed weapon holder.
One of the reasons you're seeing more of that too is because there's more of a need for it. Because more people are getting robbed and more people are getting, they're having to defend themselves. That's the reason you're seeing more of it.
Well, we've seen in the past that the average response time in the United States for a 911 call is 23 minutes.
Is that all?
Now, yeah, it's pretty quick, isn't it?
Yeah, it's getting them right out there, man.
That's right. So, if you've got a .357 Magnum that fires a 158 grain bullet at 1,400 feet per second, I think you're getting the job done a hell of a lot faster than if there were cops there.
Yeah, but you'll be able to show them what you were talking about when they do get there.
If you're not protecting yourself, you're going to be dead. Basically, that's why we stress. If you're able to, you should purchase a firearm and own a firearm. Protect yourself.
If you have a firearm, you should carry a firearm. It's much better to carry a firearm because, well, if you carry a cop, you're going to end up with like a backache.
Yeah, and besides that, he might not hit what he's shooting at anyway.
And you're going to go broke feeding him.
Well, somebody's breaking in. Somebody's breaking in, if the cops are getting there 23 minutes later, what are they going to do? They're going to be writing a report. So they're going to
write a report. Well, what do you think they're going to do?
So it's totally ridiculous not to protect yourself.
And we've got episodes of people defending themselves all over the country. Cracker, this is down in your neck of the woods in Winter Haven, Florida. Some people tried to break into the Pena family's home, and they were ready for them. And so early on Monday, the Penas woke to the sound of 40-year-old Mitchell Large trying to break into their Winter Haven home through the front porch. Undeterred by a warning shot, Large burst into the kitchen. There, 3 family members, a father, a mother, and a son, were waiting for Large. All 3 of them were armed. The family then opened fire on the intruder. It appears that at least 2 of the family members fired in defense of themselves and the property. I don't see how only 2 of them were firing in defense of themselves and the property if there were 3 of them in the house.
Yeah, kind of odd too, huh?
Right.
It seems like the first time I read that story, Michael, all 3 of them fired. They fired a warning shot first, and the guy kept on coming.
They did. It says in this story that all 3 of them fired, but for the officer, the police, to say that 2 of them fired in a manner that was consistent with protecting life and property. Well, I would think if there's 3 people in the home that's being broken into, they're all firing in defense of their life and property.
Yeah, but back to what I was saying, it's amazing what you can do with words. If the three of them are there and the guy's running in, how do you know? Did he say, was he, he looked around and made a selection? I'm going to go after you, or I'm going to go after you. See, it's insane. I'll tell you what, they can say what they want to. We're a right to carry state. Cops are getting more and more dicey on guns here. And it's just like everything else. It's no secret to anybody that listens to me talk or listens to me chat. I don't trust cops as far as you can throw them. And I keep hearing about all the good ones. And I still maintain just exactly what I've said every time. If there was so many good ones out there, then how in the hell can there be so many bad ones out there that are doing the things that they're doing without the good ones stepping up and going, hey, I'm a cop, you can't do that. That's not what we see. They stick together like glue. They throw one under the bus every now and then just to make it look good. But overall, sorry, man, the cops that are out there today are not like the cops that were out there when I was a kid. That is for sure.
Seems like you see more.
Officer Friendly has retired, and Officer Jack Boot is on duty. Civilian.
They will shoot your ass dead in a heartbeat. Don't you ever forget that. That's one thing. When you call a cop, you need to remember that. If you're calling a cop for any reason, if something's going around your house, you're taking it ain't like it was.
You can definitely kiss your dog goodbye if you call a cop.
If he growls at the cop will shoot him. They shoot. I was talking earlier today. They shoot dogs here all the time. They damn sure do. Yeah. They're getting where they years ago. If they had to draw their weapon, they felt that it had gone too far and they failed. It really meant something to them. Now they're riding around looking for reasons to draw their weapon. And I know that if there's cops out there listening to me, if they want to call in and debate that with me, go right ahead, because we see it all over the country. People are being shot by police officers everywhere, and they're not all guilty. And it's over sometimes some of the most ridiculous things in the freaking world.
Most of them can't shoot worth a lick. Also, Hal, that's another thing.
Thank God.
But they end up 2 or 3 of them emptying 15-round magazines.
Oh, well, not only emptying 15-round magazines, but they have no regards for the 4 rules of gun safety, and half the time they shoot each other.
The 4 rules of gun safety.
Or other people standing around close by. There's innocent people get shot all the time, and that's just not supposed to be. We're supposed to. They look at us and they want us to make no mistakes, use that gun perfectly. Then why doesn't it apply for them?
They are above the law, civilian. The 4 rules of gun safety do not apply. Dan, what's the first rule of gun safety?
Well, of course, that's all. You always treat a firearm as if it's loaded, Michael. Every single time someone hands you a firearm or a weapon, you pick it up. You physically inspect that dude. You take the magazine out, you open the chamber, or you open the cylinder, and you make sure that there's not a bullet anywhere to be around that firearm while you're handling it. And of course, the second one there, Michael, is...
Dan, second one is be aware of where that muzzle's going. Don't sweep anybody. That muzzle remains in a safe direction at all times. That muzzle is only to be pointed at something you intend to destroy.
That's correct. It's always aware of muzzle direction. And the third one is your target. Know what you're shooting at and know what's around and behind your target in case you miss. And my favorite of all, Michael, is the fourth one, which is...
Ladies and gentlemen, please keep your booger hook off the bang switch. That's right. Do not place your finger on the trigger or in the trigger guard area until you are ready to discharge the weapon. There are no accidental discharges. Every accidental discharge is mal-termed. It is actually a negligent discharge. The gun does not just go off. The trigger has to be pulled. For the trigger to be pulled, your finger has to be on it. So keep your booger hook off the bang switch and nothing bad happens. Don't give the forces that are trying to take away our rights any more ammunition to use against us.
They create much ammunition.
Statistic.
They create as much ammunition as they can do. They create it for us. We don't really have to do a lot. Look what they're doing. Look at all those guys in Connecticut that went to sleep one night. Woke up the next morning felons. What's wrong with that picture?
Yeah, what's happened with that? I haven't heard any more about that lately.
Haven't heard much about it, have you?
No, all of a sudden we got a bunch of felons in Connecticut, and there was another state that did the same thing.
I believe that other state was California, and they got their own special breed of felon, Senator Leland Yee. There's no information on that. There's no information.
Nothing
on
to be
that.
found on the senator. Huh?
It's amazing, isn't it? Isn't it amazing how that works? If it had been me or you think we'd be in the news?
Well, refresh my memory about this good senator from California, Michael.
Senator Leland Yee, a Democrat, recently a mayoral candidate for San Francisco, is the author and co-author of several anti-gun bills in California. Rabid. You do not need a firearm. Well, Senator Leland Yee was just busted recently for importing full automatic firearms and rocket launchers with rockets. Now, I know that the evil black rifle scares everybody, and oh my Lord, you can buy one in Walmart. Last time I went to Walmart, you can't buy a grenade launcher or rocket launchers.
Where did he buy these things from?
He was buying them from a group in the Philippines, and he's associated with the Chinese triads, and I really don't think that this guy is going to testify. I believe he'll be shanked in prison. He'll never get up there because this runs a lot deeper than him. There were several people he was arrested with, other politicians. There was I don't remember the city, but he was on the city council. He was involved with bringing $25 million worth of marijuana into Tennessee every month. There was another, I believe it was either an alderman or a councilman that was arrested in this same sting, and a couple members. Actually, one of his names it's called Shrimp Boy, which is kind of interesting. But he was a convicted felon, convicted of firearms trafficking in the past, and had recently been given a contract for something having to do with the state by Leland Yee himself. So this goes a lot deeper, and the fact that there are no reports about this is really stinky, especially because CNN's response to many people asking why are there no news stories about this. CNN said that they don't cover state-level politics nationally, which is a blatant lie because they covered Leland Yee's anti-gun activities quite well.
That's ridiculous. That is totally ridiculous.
So we face an assault from many fronts. Quite possibly the greatest threat we face is from just the propaganda onslaught. So that's really like the 4 rules of gun safety come into big time use right here. If we follow these 4 rules, they have nothing else to throw at us.
That's correct. Extending that on out, it takes three items to have an accident with a gun. You know what those 3 items are, Michael?
Well, there has to be the weapon.
The ammunition, and the person. You take any one of those out of the equation, and it's impossible to have an accident with a firearm. The firearm won't shoot itself. And, it's just so crazy, this mixed up world that we live in now, that, anti-gun over Sandy Hook.
Well, and it's every opportunity that comes up, they're using this, and I do believe that a lot of people are waking up. Maybe they're not coming around 100%, but at least they're starting to see that, hey, something is wrong here.
Yeah, and then had the Ford Hood, Michael, and of course everybody jumps on the bandwagon again, anti-gun. And didn't you tell me there was another shooting on
today? Yes, at Camp Lejeune there was another shooting today. There 2 front gate guards shot each other. So, I mean,
so they got in an argument and shot each other, or
that's what it appears. That's what it appears to be on this one. But I mean, this points to the stress that our military members are under. And I'd like to give a shout out to my brother and all his guys in Korea. You guys stay safe, Dick. Be good. But we're a nation now that last month there were no fatalities in Iraq or Afghanistan of U.S. troops, yet 22 veterans and current service members a day commit suicide. We've got a problem here. So
we're now up to 22 a day.
22 a day.
Just because of post-traumatic stress disorder.
There's a lot of issues these guys face. I mean, I know for a fact that a lot of the young people join the military because, well, we all see the economy's failing, and in my area, it's failing a little less, but we're the oil area. And really, if you're not in the oil area or directly contributing to the oil area, such as like you're a hotel where the oil workers stay, or you are the waitress at the restaurant where they eat, or you sell them boots, there's really no growth here. And I believe that's nationwide. So the military is an option for a lot of young people, and it's based on the economic need. And the unfortunate part is they join the military and that economic need is not alleviated. It might be reduced a bit because there's plenty of soldiers and families out there on food stamps, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
Our soldiers, they're not even paying them enough to where they qualify for food stamps until you get to a certain rank or what, Michael?
No. I guess the pay just isn't enough, with however many mouths they have to feed in the family, the pay isn't enough. Well, we're the greatest nation on earth. That's what we're told every day. If we're the greatest nation on earth, we should be able to feed our soldiers and their families.
They should be fed first.
I believe it's time to bring them home. Maybe it's just taking too long to get the food to them or something, but bring them home. We've got problems here we got to take care of, and our guys in the military are the ones to do it.
Hey, you're talking about the suicides in the military. Another thing that you haven't brought into the equation either. You bring the finances in, and what a lot of these guys that are offing themselves, they're taking psychotropic drugs. I mean, look at the shootings, psychotropic drugs. Look at the suicides in the military, psychotropic drugs. They pass those drugs out like it's popcorn, brother.
And they're going to do that and disarm the military guys when they come back.
Hey, you blink your eye, they'll give those drugs to you in a heartbeat. When they give those drugs to you in a heartbeat, they you lose your right to own a weapon.
I've heard several stories from very reputable sources that the military are given go pills and no-go pills. And a go pill is the Adderall and the no-go is the Ambien. So they speed you up and then they slow you down.
Oh, God.
So that doesn't...
it's throttle control, Michael. It's throttle control.
That's right. Yeah, keep them in the power band. Keep the blue smoke burning. Jeez.
And keep the wars rolling where you keep the military-industrial complex rolling right along. That's the thing.
Yeah, keep the wheels of progress turning, man.
That's got our only industry left, isn't it?
Well, I'd really like to encourage everybody out there to look for General Smedley Butler's book, War is a Racket. And it's a very easy read. I really hope everybody out there gets a chance to read it because it lays it out and you see that this whole game's been going on for forever.
That was written a long time ago also.
Yep.
I believe it was written in 1934 or 1935 is when he wrote that.
And nothing's changed.
We've had several departing presidents warn us of the military-industrial complex. The first one I can remember doing it, actually coming out and speaking like that, was Dwight Eisenhower. And look at where we're at today. You think they might have had a point? I mean, it's insane. What we see happening in this country today is just insane. It's insane. There's no, where does sanity come in when the only thing you do is go to other places and kill people? When you can't even take care of the people you have at home now.
If we've got problems in areas like Detroit, I recently heard that Detroit is about to lose its water.
Yeah.
They owe $250 million in water since they sold the water utility off a few years ago to, profit saving and blah, 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 whatever they do. But the city of Detroit's going to lose its water for $250 million, but we're in the process of giving $5 billion to destabilize Ukraine. God knows how much we've spent to destabilize Venezuela. We've got problems here, and it's up to us. And I'd kind of like to reference our theme song by that band, the Gitmos. Encourage people to check them out. But they took your pension fund. They robbed you.
Yeah, get a gun, get a gun, get a gun. And that, you were also telling me a story in Detroit. There was a mob that beat a motorist, Michael. Is that, would they yank him out of the car and beat him, or what?
Yeah, a man was involved with an accident. A kid was, I guess, playing in the street, and he hit the kid. And as he's supposed to, he pulled over and he checked the child. He tried to give aid. He was not only following the law, he was doing the right thing. Well, it turned out to be the wrong thing, because now he is on life support. He was beaten to a pulp by a crowd. Because
he hit the kid and he stopped and then tried to... Did the kid run out in front of him, or?
Yeah, the kid was playing in the street, or wasn't supervised.
Yep. The guy did the right thing and paid the price for it.
So the guy, if he'd had a firearm with him, he might have saved his own neck there. That's one major item.
I'd like to have seen how that would have been presented to the public.
Well,
insane gunman jumps out of a car and starts shooting people.
Runs over child recklessly and then, I can see that one coming down. But how he may not be on life support today if he would have had a firearm and knew how to use it and had the willingness to use it to protect his life.
That's correct. Just the presence of it alone, Michael, might have saved his neck in that situation with the mob there. That would back him off, certainly, I would think.
Well, it's depending on how many bullets you have in your magazine, that's between 7 and 17 chances usually. That's 7 to 17 times to say, get the hell away from me.
Yes, that's true, but you still got to have that first brave soul. So, you might have a chance. Usually you're going to have a chance to get away, I think. Just flash it and go, run. That's my opinion on the matter anyway. I guess we're getting into Prepper Chick's show now about morals and how to use firearms.
It does flow very well. I mean, this is a dynamic topic that really, as Americans and enthusiasts, it transcends every part of our life.
I believe so. I believe everyone should own a gun that can. That if you're able to own a firearm, you should go purchase one if you don't have one. And we've discussed numerous firearms that are not expensive that can protect you and your family. And you never know what's going to happen in this world. So,
maybe we'll get another budget gun roundup going on for next week or a week after at a couple different price points. I'll do a little bit of research and see what I can pull up at several different price points. Oh, there goes the music.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you to Jules. Everybody at UCY.TV, thank you very much. Everybody in chat, thanks a lot. Howell, thanks for being here, man.
Thanks, Howell.
No problem. Good night, everybody.
See ya.
Everybody take care. Prepper Chicks After Dark is next. Nicholas, you stay safe and get your ass home soon. Thanks, guys.